Welcome back to Shadows of Vengeance. Tonight, we're thrust into the heart of the Blackthorn Forest, where Ethan Cole flees a nightmare of gunfire and metal. Dr. Long, how does the setting amplify the stakes for our protagonists?
The forest isn't just a backdrop, it's a crucible. The chaos of nature mixed with technological terror heightens both physical and psychological peril. The Erebus machine's relentless pursuit turns every shadow into a threat, pushing human resilience to its edge.
That's a fascinating point. The machine's presence almost seems mythic, a predator in an ancient hunt. How do these elements shape the narrative tension?
They create a primal conflict, man versus machine, but also man versus the unknown. The forest's darkness mirrors the secrecy of Operation Nightshade, blurring lines between hunter and hunted, truth and deception.
Let's transition to the chilling revelation. Operation Nightshade wasn't collateral damage, it was a targeted strike. What does this deliberate intent mean for the Whisper's personal quest?
Intent changes everything. Discovering the family was hunted, not accidental victims, reframes the Whisper's motivation from random vengeance to a righteous crusade. It's a paradigm shift, like discovering a fire was arson, not lightning.
And yet, this level of orchestration by Aegis raises moral questions. How does such calculated violence impact our perception of the antagonist?
It elevates Aegis from faceless bureaucracy to deliberate malice. The precision and secrecy evoke real-world black ops, reminiscent of programs like MK Ultra, where human lives were pawns for clandestine goals.
Project Erebus itself is a disturbing fusion of technology and ethical ambiguity. Dr. Lang, can you elaborate on how the Erebus machines symbolize this moral decay?
Absolutely. The machines are physical manifestations of Aegis's ethos, efficient, emotionless, and disposable. Their design's sleek, menacing, almost predatory, reflects a mindset where ends justify monstrous means, stripping away humanity for results.
That's a powerful analogy. In literature, such machines often echo fears about unchecked technological advancement. Are there historical parallels?
Certainly. Consider the Manhattan Project or the development of drones innovation raced ahead of ethical oversight, often with catastrophic unintended consequences. Erebus is that legacy, reimagined as a literal predator in the woods.
Ethan's role as a journalist is central. Despite mortal danger, he clings to his recorder, documenting the unfolding horror. What does this tell us about the ethics of bearing witness?
Ethan embodies the ideal of the Fourth Estate, risking personal safety to expose hidden truths. His act recalls war correspondence in conflict zones, where documenting atrocities becomes a moral imperative, even if it means becoming a target.
His whispered message entrusting evidence to Sarah Klein mirrors real whistleblower tactics. How effective is this sort of contingency in high-risk journalism?
It's vital. Distributing sensitive data to trusted parties creates redundancy, making silencing one witness harder. Think of the Snowden leaks insurance files, and trusted intermediaries are crucial safeguards.
A recurring motif is the redacted document black lines hiding names, dates, truths. In your view, what's the narrative function of these redactions?
Redactions embody institutional secrecy. They taunt both characters and readers, fueling paranoia and obsession. Psychologically, what's hidden often feels more threatening than what's revealed, intensifying the drive for answers.
Facility 17, however, slips through the censor's net. How does this single unredacted detail shift the story's momentum?
It's a breadcrumbing invitation to pursue truth. Like Watergate's Deep Throat, Facility 17 becomes a focal point, promising resolution, but also drawing the protagonists deeper into danger.
Let's pivot to the confrontation with the man in the suit. Unlike the faceless machine, he's wounded, unmasked, almost admiring of Ethan's persistence. Does this humanize Aegis, or make them more menacing?
It's a dual effect. On one hand, his pain and grudging respect offer a glimpse of humanity. On the other, his cold pragmatism, "Your ants, we're the boot," underscores the institutional brutality of Aegis. He's both man and monster.
His dismissal of proof speaks volumes. In real-world power structures, how often does evidence actually catalyze change?
Too rarely. Look at whistleblower cases. Proof is necessary but rarely sufficient. Without public outrage or institutional accountability, power often shrugs off exposure, much like the man in the suit does here.
After the deadly confrontation, we see a moment of raw solidarity. The Whisper, Katya, and Ethan are battered but united. How does shared trauma forge bonds between unlikely allies?
Shared danger accelerates trust. In psychology, this is called trauma bonding. Adversity breaks down barriers, fostering loyalty and shared purpose. Their alliance, though tense, is a survival strategy born from necessity.
Katya's empathy toward the Whisper, despite her own suffering, is striking. Does empathy make resistance movements stronger or more vulnerable?
Both. Empathy humanizes the struggle, preventing dehumanization. But it can also be a liability, exposing emotional wounds that adversaries might exploit. It's a double-edged sword.
Facility 17, Montanates mention crystallizes the group's next objective. What does returning to the site of trauma typically represent in stories like this?
It's a classic return to the origin motif. Facing the birthplace of pain is essential for closure or transformation. In psychological terms, it's akin to exposure therapy or entering the traumatic space to reclaim power.
Katya warns that Aegis will escalate their retaliation. Does this escalation mirror real-world cycles of violence and cover-up?
Absolutely. History shows that institutions, when threatened, double down, deploying more resources, suppressing dissent. Think of COINTELPRO or Soviet crackdowns. The stakes only rise as truth nears the surface.
Suddenly, the sound of helicopters splits the night. This isn't just pursuit, it's militarization. What does this escalation signal about Aegis's resources and resolve?
Helicopters indicate overwhelming force. Aegis isn't some rogue cell. It's an institution with deep infrastructure. The transition from individual hunters to aerial searchlights marks a shift. The entire system is mobilizing.
How does this affect the group's odds of survival? In asymmetric conflicts, does superior technology always win?
Not necessarily. Guerrilla strategies, local knowledge, and public exposure can offset technological advantage. But the risk to the protagonists is exponentially higher. One misstep could mean annihilation.
We're left with a haunting question. Can the truth outpace the hunters? In historical and contemporary contexts, does exposure actually topple the powerful?
Exposure is a catalyst, not a guarantee. Watergate, for instance, led to resignations, but countless other truths languish in obscurity. The power structure's reaction, adapt, suppress, or collapse depends on public engagement and perseverance.
So, as Ethan, the Whisper, and Katya move toward Facility 17, are they agents of change or doomed martyrs?
Their fate hinges on their ability to survive, communicate, and galvanize others. The story's power lies in this uncertainty, possibility that a single wound exposed to the world might never heal, but could still change everything.